Think the Commanders are invincible? Think again. One washed-up receiver fights to avoid being cut today. A silent veteran pulls the strings of the star rookie's success. And greedy politicians threaten to bury our return to RFK. This isn't a game. It's all-out war in D.C. You've got 10 seconds. Subscribe or miss the franchise's explosion. Or get left out when Dan Quinn drops the blade. Comment hail and show you belong. I can't believe what's going on with Michael Gallup. But before I lose my cool, let me explain exactly how we got here. Because this story is more complex than it seems. Michael Gallup isn't just any receiver. He was a Cowboys 4th round pick in 2018. And let me tell you, when he had his 1,000-yard season in 2019, everyone thought we were seeing the birth of a star. 1,037 yards, 6 touchdowns, and incredible chemistry with Dak Prescott made it look like Dallas struck gold. But what happened next? That's where IT gets interesting. The injuries started piling up. First, it was the knee in 2021, then shoulder issues, and little by little, we saw a player losing a step each season. By 2023, the Cowboys decided they couldn't rely on him anymore and cut him. Painful? Absolutely. Surprising? Not at all, Doc, but here's what really bothers me. When he got to Las Vegas, Gallup couldn't overcome his frustration. The man publicly admitted he lost motivation, couldn't pick himself up emotionally after being rejected by the team that developed him. And instead of fighting like a warrior, you know what he did? He retired. At 28 with gas still. In the tank, he stepped away from the game. Now, fast forward to 2024. Gallup is at home, watching all his former teammates play while he's sitting on the couch. And I imagine it must have been brutal for him, watching the Cowboys and Raiders compete while he was out. Because retiring when you can't compete anymore is one thing, but retiring because you can't handle adversity is another entirely. And then what happens? Dan Quinn, who worked with Gallup in Dallas, extends a hand. Washington gives him an opportunity to return, to show he still has something to offer. Can you imagine what that means for a player who had essentially given up on his career? But here's the catch. Coming back from retirement isn't like riding a bike. It's not something you just pick up from where you left off. Gallup has been out of the game for a whole year. No professional training, no contact, none of the intensity the NFL demands. Now he has to compete against receivers who've been active all this time. And what happens when push comes to shove? Gallup injures his hamstring in the first weeks of training. Let me tell you, that injury isn't a coincidence. When your body's been out of the NFL's rhythm for a year, your muscles aren't ready for that intensity. It's like driving a Prius for a year and suddenly trying to manage a Lamborghini at top speed. But you know what's the cruelest part of all this? While Gallup was on the sidelines recovering from his injury, other receivers were seizing every rep. We're talking about Jalen Lane, who showed bright flashes in his rookie season. Noah Brown, who knows the system and has proven reliable. Luke McCaffrey, with the pedigree and versatility coaches love. And what does this mean for Gallup? It means he's not a priority anymore. It means every day he spends recovering is a day others are gaining coaches' trust. In a league where impressions are everything, Gallup is starting at a massive disadvantage. But here's what really excites me about this situation. The relentless mentality that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have established. Remember when we were the team that kept mediocre players just because they'd been around a while? Remember when we gave chances out of sentiment rather than merit? That's over. This new administration has shown it doesn't matter your name, history, or connections. If you don't produce, if you're not available, if you can't contribute to the team's goal, you're out. And that's exactly what we needed. Gallup needs to understand that he's in a position where he can't afford a single mistake. He needs to be completely healthy for training camp. He needs to show that his year out of the game didn't affect his speed, hands, or understanding of the game. And more importantly, he needs to show that he has the mindset of a fighter, not Someone who gives up when things get tough. Do you think it's fair? Do you think Gallup deserves more time to show what he can do? Because I'm telling you, in this new era of the Commanders, justice is simple. Either you produce or you don't. And if you don't, there are 20 players waiting for your chance. Now, if Gallup's story bummed you out, get ready because Marcus Mariota's story will inspire you. We're talking about a man who found his true purpose after a decade in the NFL, and his impact on the Commanders is deeper than most people. Realize. Remember when Marcus Mariota was the second overall pick in the 2015 draft? The Tennessee Titans bet everything on him, believing he was the future of the franchise. And for a while, it seemed they were right. In his first 4 years, Mariota showed flashes of brilliance that justified such a high pick. But what happened? Then, the harsh reality of professional football. Injuries piled up, consistency became an issue, and by 2019, the Titans decided Ryan Tannehill gave them better chances to win. Painful? Absolutely. But it was also the moment that defined the rest of Mariota's career. Do you know what's most impressive about Mariota's story? That he didn't let it make him bitter. He didn't become one of those toxic veterans poisoning the locker room because they couldn't accept their new reality. Instead, he began a journey of self-discovery that saw him through Las Vegas, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and finally Washington. Each stop taught him something different. In Las Vegas, he learned to be a true professional regardless of how many reps he got. In Atlanta, he understood what being a mentor for younger quarterbacks means. In Philadelphia, he saw up close what being part of a winning culture looks like. What happens when he gets to Washington? Mariota meets Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback with all the talent in the world but needing guidance. And here's where we see Mariota's true greatness, because not everyone can be an effective mentor. I believe what happened between Mariota and Daniels in 2024 is one of the most important stories of our successful season. Because when you have a rookie quarterback, especially one with the expectations Daniels had, the pressure can be overwhelming. But do you know what Mariota did? He became the big brother Daniels never had. Not the jealous veteran worried about his own opportunities, but the genuine mentor who wants to see his pupil succeed. And how do we know this worked? By the results: 12 wins, playoffs, and a trip to the NFC Championship game. Can you imagine what it means for a rookie quarterback to have someone like Mariota in his ear? Someone who's been in every possible situation, experienced success and failure at the highest levels, and can provide perspective when things get tough. But here's what impresses me most. Mariota didn't stop at being a passive mentor. When the team needed him, like in that overtime game against Atlanta in Week 17, he showed he still has the talent that made him the second overall pick. But do you know what's most important? After that game, he handed control back to Daniels without ego, drama, or problems. And you know what I love most about Mariota's current mindset? His philosophy of living in the moment. When he says he doesn't think about what might happen, that he just tries to be present every day, that's exactly what a team aiming to sustain success needs. The more I can be in the moment, reminding myself just to enjoy life, Mariota says. Do you understand how powerful that is? In a league where everyone worries about contracts, stats, and personal recognition, you have a veteran who's genuinely found peace in contributing to collective success. And how does this translate to the field? In silent leadership, in meticulous preparation, in being ready for any situation no matter when they need you. It's the difference between being a good player and being a true professional. But here's what excites me: how Mariota's mentality perfectly aligns with the culture Dan Quinn is building. Because Quinn also preaches attacking each day individually, being present, prioritizing team success over individual success. Do you think it's a coincidence the Commanders had such success in 2024? I'm telling you it's not. When you have veterans like Mariota modeling the right mentality, where you have leaders who genuinely care more about collective success than individual success, that spreads throughout the locker room. And what does This means for 2025? It means we have the right cultural foundation to sustain success. It means Jaden Daniels will continue developing under the guidance of someone who truly understands what being a quarterback in the NFL means. It means we have the kind of veteran leadership championship teams need. I believe Marcus Mariota has found something many players never do: true purpose. Not the superficial purpose of accumulating stats or gaining recognition, but the deep purpose of contributing to something bigger than himself. And now comes the news that has my blood boiling. But before I explode with frustration, let me explain exactly why this RFK Stadium situation is so important for every single one of us. Do you remember RFK Stadium? The glory years when that place buzzed with the energy of the best fans in the world. The Super Bowls, the playoffs, the nights when that stadium was the most intimidating place in the NFL. Because I remember when being a Washington fan meant something. I remember when our stadium was a fortress where visiting teams trembled before entering. I remember when RFK was synonymous with excellence, tradition, glory. And then what happened? We moved to Landover. FedEx Field, a stadium without soul, without character, without an emotional connection to the community. A place where fan experience was secondary, where the atmosphere was artificial, where we never regained the magic we had at RFK. But you know what? When Josh Harris bought the team, when Adam Peters became general manager, when Dan Quinn became our coach, we started dreaming again. And part of that dream was returning home, returning to D.C., returning to where we belong. And what happens in December 2024? Miracle! Legislation passes transferring control of the RFK site from the federal government to Washington, D.C. What for? So the Commanders can build their new stadium, so we can return home. Can you imagine what that means? After decades of mediocrity, years of shame, an eternity playing in a stadium that doesn't represent our identity, we were finally going to have a true home in the nation's capital. In April 2025, it becomes official. The Commanders will build their new stadium at the RFK site, ready by 2030. 5 years to design, plan, and build not just a stadium, but a monument to this franchise's renewed greatness. And then what happens? These traitorous politicians on the D.C. Council decide they're going to play with our dreams. They decide. They'll delay the vote until September because they're supposedly confused about the legislation's purpose. Confused? Are you kidding me? The legislation was crystal clear. Transfer control of the RFK site so the Commanders can build their stadium. No confusion, no ambiguity, no misunderstanding. This is pure politics. Do you want to know the real reason for the delay? These politicians are trying to exploit the situation for financial gain. They're using our dreams as bargaining chips in their political games. They're trying to see how much they can squeeze out of this situation before doing what they knew they had to do from the STARTJP Finley of NBC Sports put it perfectly. This opposition is completely unfounded. There's no legitimate reason to delay this vote. There are no real concerns about the stadium's impact. This is a political maneuver, plain and simple. And do you know what's most frustrating about all this? The numbers are on our side. We need 7 of the 13 council members to approve the proposal. Currently, 4 are publicly in favor. Does that mean we need to convince just 3 more? It should be easy. But what's going on with the others? Are they waiting to see how much they can gain before casting their vote? Are they playing politics with something that should be an obvious decision? Are they putting personal interests above the city's well-being? Mayor Muriel Bowser says her level of concern is 4 out of 5. But why? What's there to fear about bringing the Commanders back to D.C.? What's there to fear about creating jobs, generating tax revenue, revitalizing an area that's been neglected for decades? Do you know what having the Commanders play in the city means economically for D.C.? We're talking thousands of jobs, millions in tax revenue, and a complete revitalization of that entire area. And these politicians are worried about WHE exactly? But, you know what? Josh Harris and Adam Peters aren't amateurs. These men didn't get where they are by accepting defeat easily. If the D.C. Council wants to play politics, there's a backup plan involving the United States Congress and potentially President Trump. Do you think Congress will allow some local politicians to sabotage a project that benefits the whole region? Do you think they'll let D.C. miss a historic revitalization opportunity due to a few's greed? I'm telling you this. The Commanders will return to D.C. They'll rebuild RFK. They'll be playing on the new site by 2030, no matter how many political maneuvers these council members try. No matter how long they try delaying the inevitable, it will happen. But do you know why this situation bothers me so much? Because it's not just about a stadium. It's about identity, community, respect. It's about proving Washington, D.C. can do great things, that it can be a city supporting its sports teams. Remember when we thought we'd never have a respectable organization? Now we have Josh Harris, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and a team that reached the NFC Championship game. And these politicians want to be an obstacle in the next step of our evolution? It's about giving Jaden Daniels and this new generation of players a true home in the Capitol. It's about creating an environment where our players want to play, where free agents want to sign, where we can compete not just on the field, but also in terms of facilities. Can you imagine what it means for a young quarterback like Daniels, knowing he'll play in a first-class stadium in the heart of D.C.? Can you imagine the pride he'll feel representing not just the Commanders, but the entire DMV region? So, what will we do as fans? Are we going to stay silent while these politicians play with our dreams? Are we going to let a few greedy council members delay what's best for the whole region? No way. We need to let our voices be heard. We need to contact our representatives. We need to show we're more than a fan base. We're a community that won't let them disrespect us, because this is our chance. Our chance to have everything we always dreamed of. A competitive team, a respectable organization, and a stadium reflecting this franchise and city's greatness. And you know what's most interesting about these three stories? They each tell us something different about the current state of the Washington Commanders. Gallup's situation shows us this organization no longer accepts mediocrity. Mariota's leadership demonstrates we have the right culture to sustain success. And the stadium fight reminds us we still have battles to win to secure our future. Do you see the connection? We're at a transition point where every decision matters. Where we can't afford sentimentality with players who can't contribute. Where we need to value the kind of leadership that truly matters. And where we have to fight for our place in this city's history. This is our reality as Commanders fans in 2025. We have a team we finally respect, an organization that finally works, and a future that finally looks bright. But we also have tough decisions to accept and battles to win. Is Gallup's situation sad? Yes, but it's also necessary. Because if we're going to compete at the highest level, we need players who are fully committed, fully healthy, and fully capable of contributing when we need them. Is Mariota's leadership inspiring? Absolutely. Because it shows this organization attracts the kind of veterans who understand what being professional means, what putting team success above individual success really means. Is the stadium situation frustrating? Of course, but it also reminds us that good things don't come easy, that we have to fight for what we want, and that this organization will do whatever it takes to achieve its goals. What do you think? Do you agree with the tough decision on Gallup? Are you excited about Mariota's impact on Daniel's development? Are you as furious as I am about this stadium political situation? Because I need to hear your voices. I need to know we're united in this. I need to know you feel the same passion I do for this franchise's future. If you feel that passion, if you want to stay updated on everything happening with the Commanders, if you want to be part of this community, growing alongside the teams, success, I need you to subscribe to this channel right now. Leave your comments, share your opinions, and let's keep this conversation alive. Because the more united we are as fans, the stronger our voice will be when we need to defend our team. when we need to support our players, and when we need to fight for our future. And remember, hail to the Commanders.